This really is a stunning venue, isn't it?
I've never seen her looking so happy. The entire ceremony was just beautiful. I want to thank you all for being here today. Seeing all your faces fills my heart with joy. Thank you for sharing this beautiful moment. It means truly everything to our family. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness. I appreciate you all coming tonight, but there is something I must clarify.
The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning in a cream envelope bearing Madam Kang's handwriting. Zara recognized the penmanship before she even turned it over. Precise, controlled. The handwriting of a woman who had decided long ago that every detail was a statement. She stood in the kitchen of her Seoul apartment with the envelope in her hand for a full minute before opening it. The card inside was printed on heavy stock. Gold lettering. The Shilla Hotel Ballroom. Saturday evening. A celebration of the engagement of Kang Min-jun and Park Ha-eun. At the bottom, in Madam Kang's own handwriting, "We hope you will join us." Zara read it twice. She set it on the counter, made herself a cup of coffee, then stood at the window, looking out at the Han River doing what it always did, moving, indifferent, completely unbothered by anyone's private reckoning. Then she picked up her phone. She made a call she had not made in 18 months. "Chairman Park," she said when he answered. "I need a favor." There was a pause on the other end. Not surprise. Park Dae-won was not a man who surprised easily. Just the brief silence of someone recalibrating to an unexpected voice. "Zara," he said, "tell me what you need." The marriage had lasted 6 years. The unraveling had taken longer. Because the thing doing the unraveling had been patient, quiet, and careful enough to leave almost no evidence behind. Madam Kang Soon-yi had never screamed at Zara. She had never issued ultimatums. She had never done anything that could be pointed to directly and named for what it was. Her campaign had been conducted in the precise, deniable language of a woman who understood that the most effective pressure was the kind that left no marks. There was the dinner invitation that arrived 2 days after the event. A printing error, Min-jun said. His mother had been mortified. Then there was the family photograph taken at Chuseok. Zara had been standing at the far left of the frame. But the framed photograph that appeared on Madam Kang's wall the following month contained everyone except her. The photographer made a mistake with the crop, Min-jun explained. His mother hadn't noticed. Then came the comment at a Sunday lunch about how beautiful grandchildren with Min-jun's bone structure would be. It was delivered with such genuine warmth that Min-jun smiled. Zara simply sat there and understood exactly what was happening. The problem was, she couldn't prove any of it. She stayed because she loved him. She stayed because she believed that a man who genuinely loved you would eventually see what was happening and make a choice. She gave him 5 years to make that choice. She was patient in the way women who know their own worth are patient, not desperate, not shrinking, simply watching with the quiet confidence that eventually the truth would demand a response. That response came on a Wednesday morning in their kitchen. Min-jun sat across from her, his hands flat against the table. He told her his mother had helped him understand that they wanted different things. He couldn't look at her when he said it. Zara was quiet for a moment. "Is this what you want?" she asked. "Or what she told you to want?" He didn't answer. That was its own answer. She signed the papers the next morning. She packed one bag clothes, her law certificates, the photograph of her mother, and the small wooden box her grandmother had given her when she left Lagos for London, and later London for Seoul. She left everything else. The apartment. The furniture they had chosen together. The life she had built inside a city that had asked nothing of her except that she be willing to show up. She had always been willing to show up. That was never the problem. She moved into a smaller apartment in Mapo-gu, went back to work, and did not speak Min-jun's name for 18 months. Not because she was broken, because she was finished. And finished people do not spend their energy on what is behind them. Then the cream envelope arrived, and she made the phone call. Saturday arrived the way important evenings always arrive quietly, without announcement, as if the day itself understood that what was coming needed no introduction. Zara spent the morning doing ordinary things. She made breakfast. She read through 2 contract briefs she had been working on for a technology firm in Pangyo. At 11, she called her mother in Lagos and talked for 40 minutes about nothing important: her mother's neighbor's new dog, the mango tree in the backyard that had finally produced fruit after 3 stubborn years, the small things that anchor a person to where they came from when where they are feels uncertain. She did not mention the party. Her mother did not need to carry that. At 4 in the afternoon, Zara stood in front of her wardrobe for exactly 3 minutes. She was not a woman who agonized over her appearance, but she understood that what you wore into a room was information. She was very careful about what information she gave. She chose the midnight dress, clean lines, nothing decorative, the kind of dress that said, "I am not here to impress you." She wore her hair the way she always wore it, natural, full, unapologetic. Then she put on the single ring her grandmother had given her, gold and worn smooth from years of being passed between hands that knew what it meant. She looked at herself in the mirror for one moment. She looked exactly like herself. That was the point. Chairman Park's car arrived at 6:45. He stepped out first and opened the door for her, with the ease of a man who had learned that small gestures done with genuine intention carried more weight than large gestures performed for an audience. He was dressed simply. Dark suit, no tie. The kind of understatement that came from a man who needed nothing external to communicate who he was. "You look ready," he said. "I've been ready for 18 months, she said. He nodded once. They got into the car. They did not speak much on the drive to the Shilla Hotel. They had never been people who filled silence unnecessarily. In the 3 years she had worked for him, they had developed the easy understanding of 2 people who respected each other's intelligence enough to trust that when something needed to be said, one of them would say it. The silence in the car was that kind of silence. Comfortable, loaded with everything that didn't need to be spoken because they already understood it. The car stopped at the hotel entrance at 7:12. The doorman opened the door. Zara stepped out first. She could feel the shift in the air the moment they walked through the ballroom entrance together. It wasn't dramatic. It never was with Park Dae-won. It was simply what happened when a room full of powerful people realized that someone even more powerful had just entered it. The conversations nearest the door thinned first. Then recognition traveled, table by table, face by face, until the entire room seemed to recalibrate itself around the new information of his presence. And then they noticed who was beside him. Zara felt the moment they connected her face to her name. She had expected it. She did not flinch. She accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and moved through the room with the unhurried confidence of a woman who understood that the most powerful thing she could do in that space was simply be completely herself. Madam Kang found her in 7 minutes. Zara had expected 6. The extra minute meant something had slowed her surprise, recalculation, the hesitation of a woman who had prepared for many scenarios but had not prepared for this one. They met near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the hotel garden. The city glittered beyond the glass. Inside, the party continued its performance around them, glasses lifting, conversations flowing, the orchestrated warmth of a celebration planned down to the last orchid. Madam Kang stopped 2 feet from her. She was composed. She was always composed. But something was working behind her eyes that Zara recognized immediately. The calculations were changing. "You came," Madam Kang said. "You invited me," Zara said. A pause. "That was a courtesy." "I know," Zara said. "I treated it as one." Madam Kang's eyes moved to Chairman Park across the room, where he was speaking with 2 board members who had visibly straightened the moment he approached them. Something shifted in her expression. Not fear. Something more uncomfortable. She had spent 60 years being one of the most significant people in every room she entered, and she had just encountered a room where that was no longer true. "How do you know Park Dae-won?" she asked. Her voice was careful, measured, the voice of a woman extracting information while pretending to make conversation. "We worked together," Zara said, "for several years." "In what capacity?" "Legal counsel." The silence that followed was different. Madam Kang was doing what intelligent people do when they receive information that changes something they thought they understood. She was going back through everything she knew, checking it against this new fact, and discovering that several things no longer fit the shape she had assigned them. "I was not aware of that," Madam Kang said finally. "No," Zara said. She held her gaze. "You weren't." She said it without coldness, without satisfaction, simply as a fact that both of them now had to stand inside. Then Zara looked at the older woman for one moment, not with anger, not with triumph, but with the clear-eyed composure of a woman who had already processed her grief and arrived somewhere on the other side of it. "Your son looks well," she said. "I hope the evening is everything you planned." She picked up her champagne glass and walked back into the party. And for the first time that evening, Madam Kang was the one left standing still. If you felt what Zara felt standing at that window, stay with this story. The woman they dismissed is standing calmly in the room they once tried to erase her from. And the evening is far from over. Min-jun found her near the garden entrance at 8:15. She had been expecting him too. Just as she had expected Madam Kang, not with dread or anticipation, but with the steady awareness of a woman who had mapped the evening carefully enough to know where every conversation would come from and roughly when. He looked the same. That was the strange thing about seeing someone you had once loved completely and then lost completely. The shock was never that they had changed. It was that they hadn't. Same face, same way of holding his shoulders when he was uncertain, same habit of beginning a sentence, then stopping when the words felt inadequate. "Zara," he said. "Min-jun." He glanced behind him. Ha-eun was at the far end of the room, talking to his aunt with her back turned toward them. He looked back at Zara, wearing the expression of a man who had not fully decided what he wanted to say and was now standing inside the consequences of that uncertainty. "You didn't have to come," he said. "Your mother invited me." "I know. I didn't know she had until 2 days ago." He paused. "I'm sorry. I would have called if I'd known." "Would you?" She wasn't accusing him. She was simply asking. He was quiet. Around them, the party continued laughter from a nearby table, the clink of glasses, the soft noise of a celebration that belonged to him and not to her. "Who is Park Dae-won to you?" he asked. The question sounded casual. It wasn't. Zara recognized the architecture of it immediately. Behind it was the discomfort of a man discovering that there had been entire rooms in his wife's life he had never thought to enter. "He was my employer," she said. "For 3 years before we met. Private legal counsel." Min-jun's expression changed. Surprise first, then something closer to understanding, then something she couldn't quite name, the look of a man beginning to realize just how much he had underestimated the woman he had once called his wife. "You never told me. You never asked. No accusation, just the truth." He looked down at his hands for a moment before looking back at her. "Are you okay?" Zara said nothing. "I mean, are you actually okay?" he continued. "Not performing okay." She studied him for a long moment. This was the man she had loved. The man who had been good in many ways and insufficient in the one way that mattered most. She looked at him the way you look at something you have completely grieved, with the clear eyes of someone who has finally reached the other side of the pain and can see it for exactly what it was. "I'm better than okay," she said. "I've been building something. I'm happy, Min-jun." "Genuinely." He nodded slowly. Something moved across his face. She chose not to interpret it. "I hope tonight is good for you," she said. "Ha-eun seems kind." "She is," he said quietly. "Then be good to her." Zara held his gaze. "Choose her every day. Don't make her fight for something that should never have been a fight." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Zara moved past him and back into the party. She didn't look back. She had learned a long time ago that sometimes the most important thing about moving forward was the direction of your eyes. Chairman Park found her at the champagne table at 8:40. He handed her a fresh glass and stood beside her, unhurried and completely present the stillness of a man who had never needed movement to command a room. "Madam Kang has been watching me for 40 minutes, he said. "I know," Zara said. "She asked how I knew you." "What did you tell her?" "Legal counsel, 3 years." He nodded. Across the room, Madam Kang was holding court with 3 women her age. Her composure remained intact, but her eyes kept drifting toward Park with the focused attention of someone trying to locate a piece of information she couldn't find. "She doesn't know about the Gangnam contract," Zara said. It wasn't a question. "Nobody knows about the Gangnam contract except you, me, and one retired judge," Park said. "That was always the point." Min-jun's divorce lawyers filed paperwork that touched the edge of it. "I know." Park took a slow sip of his drink. I discovered it 4 months after the divorce was finalized. The reference was oblique enough that no journalist would catch it. He paused. But oblique is not invisible. Zara looked down at her champagne glass. You never told me. You had enough to carry. His voice remained calm. And I handled it. The exposure was contained within 6 weeks. There's no longer a thread to pull. He paused. But there was a thread. Zara looked at him. Because of a divorce your ex-husband's mother engineered, he continued. Because of paperwork filed by lawyers who didn't know what they were touching. Around them, the party continued its performance. Somewhere to their right, a group of guests laughed. The orchestra moved into another piece. Everything was still beautiful. Still elegant. Still perfectly controlled. Exactly the way Madam Kang had designed it. I want to tell her, Zara said. Park was quiet for a moment. Tell her what, specifically? That the woman she spent 6 years erasing spent 3 of those years protecting her family from a consequence she created without ever knowing it existed. Zara carefully set her champagne glass down. Not to threaten her, not to demand anything. She looked across the room at Madam Kang. Just so she knows. A beat. Just so the truth is in the room. Park studied her. It was the look of a man who had spent 50 years in rooms full of powerful people and had learned to recognize the difference between someone acting from strategy and someone acting from conviction. Then tell her, he said. He paused. I'll speak to her first. It will land differently coming from me. Zara nodded. Park straightened his jacket. Then he moved across the room toward Madam Kang with the quiet certainty of a man who had never walked into a conversation without knowing exactly why he was there. Zara watched him go. She picked up her champagne glass and waited. This was the moment everything changed. Stay with me, because what Park is about to tell Madam Kang will dismantle everything she thought she had built. Chairman Park crossed the room with the specific, unhurried certainty of a man who had never needed to prepare an entrance because every room he entered had already adjusted itself around him. The 3 women speaking with Madam Kang saw him coming first. They recalibrated immediately, the slight straightening of posture, the sudden awareness of how they were standing, and found reasons to drift away one by one, until Madam Kang stood alone with her champagne glass, and the full understanding that the most powerful man in the room had crossed it, specifically to speak with her. She did not retreat. Zara hadn't expected her to. Madam Kang Soon-yi had not built 60 years of influence by retreating. Park stopped beside her and looked out at the room, the way men who own things look at them not with pride exactly, but with the calm assessment of someone taking inventory. Your son has done well for himself, he said. Ha-eun's family is solid. Thank you, Madam Kang said carefully. We are very pleased. A pause. The orchestra moved into something quieter. Around them, the party continued its beautiful performance, completely unaware that the most significant conversation of the evening was happening between 2 people, standing very still near the east wall. I have known Zara Mitchell for 8 years, Park said. His voice was conversational, almost gentle. She handled the most sensitive legal matter of my career, the Gangnam acquisition. You may have read about it, the land consolidation in Apgujeong that restructured 3 separate regulatory agreements simultaneously. Madam Kang's expression did not change, but something behind her eyes sharpened. I am familiar with it, she said. Then you understand its complexity. Park paused. 2 previous lawyers couldn't find a clean path through the regulatory framework. Zara found it in 6 weeks. She sealed it in a way that has remained completely unassailable for 5 years. Another pause. She also kept her involvement completely private, at my request, because that's the kind of professional she is. Madam Kang said nothing. She was listening with the full attention of a woman who understood that the information being given to her was being given deliberately, and that the shape of what she was hearing had not yet fully revealed itself. When your son's divorce lawyers filed their paperwork 18 months ago, Park continued, still conversational, still looking out at the room, they included a reference to a property transaction from 4 years prior. The reference was oblique. Unintentional. They didn't know what they were touching. He turned to look at Madam Kang directly for the first time. But oblique is not invisible. The champagne glass in Madam Kang's hand went completely still. I discovered it 4 months after the divorce was finalized, Park said. I contained the exposure within 6 weeks. There is no longer a thread to pull, and no journalist who could find one. He paused. But for 6 weeks, there was a thread. His eyes remained on hers. Created by paperwork filed because of a divorce you engineered. By lawyers who didn't know what they were touching because the woman who knew exactly what it was had been removed from your family's life at your instruction. The silence between them changed. Not hostile, not triumphant. Simply the silence of a truth that had been placed in the room and now occupied it completely. Zara knew about the exposure, Park said. She discovered it the same week I did. She called me immediately. He paused. She spent 4 of those 6 weeks working without billing me to help contain it. He looked at Madam Kang steadily. She protected your family from a consequence you created without knowing it existed. Another pause. She did it quietly. She asked for nothing. She told nobody. He let the silence sit for one final moment. I thought you should know who you dismissed. Park nodded once. Then he walked away. Madam Kang stood at the east wall of the Shilla Hotel ballroom for a long moment. Around her, the party continued. Glasses lifted. Conversations flowed. Min Jun laughed at something Ha-eun said, and the sound carried across the room with the specific warmth of a man who was genuinely happy in that moment. Madam Kang looked across the room at Zara. Zara was already looking at her. Madam Kang crossed the room at 9:47. The party was beginning its natural wind-down guests, moving toward the exit in the unhurried way of people who had enjoyed themselves and weren't ready to rush the ending. The orchestra had softened to something almost ambient. The orchids on the tables had begun to lose their perfect arrangement, petals shifting, the controlled beauty of the evening loosening at its edges. She stopped in front of Zara, 2 feet between them, the same distance as the window conversation 3 hours earlier. But everything inside that distance was different now. Madam Kang was quiet for a moment. She looked at Zara with the specific expression of a woman who had spent 60 years deciding what was correct and had just encountered a situation her usual frameworks could not fully process. I sent the invitation, she said finally, because I wanted you to see what you had lost. I know, Zara said. I did not expect. She stopped, started again. I did not know about Park Dae-won. No, Zara said. You didn't. Another silence. Longer this time. You protected this family, Madam Kang said. After everything, Zara looked at her steadily. I protected a legal situation I had built. That's who I am regardless of the circumstances. It was never about your family specifically. Madam Kang absorbed this. Something moved across her face that cost her something, the expression of a woman who had built her identity around being the most intelligent person in every room and had just understood that she had been catastrophically wrong about something important. You were always going to be more than he deserved, she said quietly. It wasn't an apology. Madam Kang was not built for apologies, and Zara had never needed one. But it was something. An acknowledgement from a woman who could not take back 6 years, but could, at minimum, stand inside the truth of them. Zara looked at her for a long moment. I know, she said simply. She picked up her bag. She found Chairman Park near the entrance, where he was finishing a conversation with 2 guests. He saw her coming and ended the conversation with the easy efficiency of a man who always knew when it was time to leave. They walked out together through the hotel lobby and into the Seoul night. The city did what it always did, indifferent, luminous, completely unbothered by anyone's private reckoning. Neither of them spoke until they reached the car. How do you feel? Park asked. Zara considered the question seriously, the way she considered everything. Finished, she said. She looked out toward the city. Not angry finished, just done. Like putting down something heavy you've been carrying for so long you forgot it had weight. He nodded. The car moved into the stream of Seoul's Saturday night traffic. Attorney Song will send the appointment documents Monday morning, Park said. The press release goes out at 9 a.m. Your name will be in every major publication by noon. She looked out the window at the city lights moving past. Thank you, she said. For tonight. You built everything that made tonight possible, he said. I just walked through the door beside you. The message arrived the following morning at 7:43. Zara was standing at her kitchen window with her first cup of coffee, watching the Han River catch the early light. Unknown number. She almost didn't open it. Congratulations on your appointment. I saw the announcement this morning. You deserve better than what this family gave you. I hope you know that. Ha-eun. Zara read it twice. She set her phone face down on the counter. Then she looked back out at the river. Something moved across her face that wasn't quite a smile but was warmer than that. The expression of a woman who had been seen clearly by someone she hadn't expected, and found that it mattered more than she anticipated. She was still here. She had always been still here. They had simply been looking in the wrong direction to see her. Seoul moved outside her window, indifferent, luminous, unbothered. She picked up her coffee. She had a press release to read, a contract brief to finish, a kitchen that needed a full week of groceries, and a mother in Lagos to call with news that was going to make her cry happy tears for 20 minutes. She had work to do. She had always had work to do. And the woman they had erased from the photograph was about to be on the front page. If this story hit you, if you felt every moment of what Zara carried and how she finally put it down like this video right now, every like tells YouTube this story matters and helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe to Afro-Korean Folktales because every week we tell stories about the women they dismissed, the truths they couldn't contain, and the endings nobody saw coming. And I want to know from you, what was the moment that got you? Was it the window conversation? Was it what Park said to Madam Kang? Or was it Ha-eun's message? Drop it in the comments. We read them. And share this story with someone who has ever been dismissed by people who should have known better. We'll see you in the next one.